Welcome to Psychic Girls Next Door. We're your hosts, Shannon Miller
and Lili. And this podcast is for all spirituality enthusiasts and psychics next door to share tools, experiences, and spiritual practices that align with your highest vibrational self.
In this episode, we will be chatting about going through changes that cause you to experience forced growth, and in tandem, how to recognize situations, patterns, places, or habits that no longer serve you.
And forced growth can also be defined as a fixed period of rapid personal development that is shaped by extreme environmental pressures. Well, that's a lot of definitions. A lot of words.
A lot of definitions and words. No.
I think it would be easier for us to kind of start sharing your experiences and just more in practical ways. So it makes more sense to everyone too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to dive on in.
Go for it.
So lately I've been experiencing a lot of, quote unquote, forced growth around my career situation. And I've been getting a few different readings around advice around my career. I feel like, there's been some internal changes at my current job that have forced me to start looking for a new job. And speaking of forced growth, so forced change, forced growth. And it's been like a great experience so far. But I think with the changes happening at work, I am no longer energetically aligned to where I am at in my workplace. And then I'm realizing like, oh, maybe I'm not energetically aligned to the type of like career that I'm doing or the type of work that I'm doing. So it's been more of like an introspective, like soul searching type of moment for me to go through. And that's what I kind of think of when you think of forced growth, like something that an incident happens or a situation changes, and then it forces you to kind of grow through that experience. And that's exactly what I've been experiencing the past month. So this is perfect timing.
Yes, I think this year has been so intense. I can only speak for myself, but I speak with everyone that mentions the same thing. Like, oh gosh, like it's been a lot of changes, transitions, and and I also I'll put like forced growth, like a quote unquote. Mm-hmm. Mostly because the forced growth, it's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
Because it is followed by a lot of changes, whether external or internal changes. And a lot of us, we don't want to be in that space where we have to make a lot of changes.
Right. We're comfortable, even if it's like so uncomfortable, like the thought of being comfortable with, being comfortable in the place that you're in, or being kind of complacent with like, okay, I know all the challenges that I currently face. I know like the routine, having to change that routine, having to like the idea of taking on new challenges or new energy or meeting new people or just learning something new. I think that can feel very daunting for a lot of people.
I think for 99.9% of humanity, I think we're all kind of in that, space where we want change, but then we don't want to change, right?
Ooh, that's deep.
Yes. Yeah. We kind of feel like, oh, I want this and this to happen, but then I kind of want things to stay the same.
Right.
But then in reality, nothing changes if you don't change. And sometimes the universe is going to be like, hey, I'm going to nudge you. Sometimes it might be a subtle nudge, and sometimes it might knock you off from where you are. And this is where it gets very uncomfortable. It might get messy. It might get
emotional.
Oof, very much so. Intense.
Yeah. Like that's been with this like forced change that's currently happening that I'm going through right now. I've been like the most emotional I've been in like years. And I'm like, why am I so emotional about this? Like, this is, on paper, it's just a job. Like, but I realized like, oh, I created weird, like, codependent relationships with the people who I work with. And then a lot of my personal validation got tied into how they perceive me. And, like, do they recognize me in the workplace? Do they reward me? Do they value me? They give me out words of affirmation. And that was, like, how they were rewarding and recognizing me.
So a lot of external validation.
A lot of external validation. And that's also highlighting something that I need to fully heal. And I thought, oh my God, I'm good. Like, I don't need external validation from people. And then I kept, like, it's like pouring into like a bowl, right? And it's like, wow, this is never ending. There every day I'm doing great. And then when it flips and you're like, and not that I wasn't doing great, but if if it changes or they withhold, like, words of affirmation or whatever, I feel like it was very, very drastic and dramatic. And
yeah, because you can control your outside environment.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you look at it, you can only control yourself. And and it's okay to be emotional.
Oh, yeah. It is definitely okay.
Yes.
And it's okay to not be okay, too.
Yes.
Like, I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I was not very pleasant. And I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to be very fun for the next few weeks, okay?
Yeah, good warning.
Right, yeah. Good warning. And then I told my sister, and Megan was like, you have to, like, don't project your stuff because other people are projecting onto you at work. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and it's like not fair to like transfer my toxicity that I'm being transferred to my mom, who's just like trying to check in with me and like keep up with me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also, comes down to awareness.
Yeah.
And again, like, we're humans, even though, like, as you guys have listened to us, if you have listened to our past episodes, for ourselves too, that, have done a lot of healing work, and we do facilitate a lot of healing work. It's a never ending task. And there are things that are going to trigger us, and there are things sometimes we might, we're going to still project and get triggered no matter what. Because, at the end of the day, you're still human. Mm-hmm. And you still have emotions, and they're always going to be changing and have its ups and downs. But I think it's great just the fact that you like caught yourself.
Oh yeah,
in that moment, like, oh, I wasn't very pleasant to my mom, like how
right.
You, like right there and then you're like, yeah, I've noticed that. But then I think it's important, like, what is the next step, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I've recognized it. What is, like, can I shift this? Well, next time if I talk to her, can I be a little bit more pleasant?
Right. Like, I texted her right after, and I was like, sorry if I was rude. Like, I didn't mean to,
Yeah, well, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think it's for us also, too, when you catch yourself in that space where, and we have days we don't behave as, just like the ray of sunshine, bubbly person. And we do have our bad days. Mm-hmm. I'm in a very bad mood sometimes.
Oh, totally.
I, wake up and I'm like, gosh, I don't want to talk to anyone today.
Right.
Yeah. And that internal state, it transfers to others.
Yeah.
Unless if you're able to really recognize it right there and then, you just kind of go throughout your day, and that sets the tone and the energy for your day. And you would notice like how everything just kind of matches that, right?
Yeah.
It just kind of tracks more and more.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that too. By the way, like just kind of quickly mentioning, as you're talking about also like transitioning careers, I'm kind of in the same space too. When I'm also transitioning from my daytime job to something else, which I still don't know what it is that I want to work with, or what is it that's going to show up. And for me, this growth period is how I call it. It's been riddled with anxiety because in my case, I'm a lot in the future. You're kind of like looking at, what's going to happen? What type of job? So it's like always like kind of like looking a month from now, gosh, am I going to have enough money to survive and things like that?
Yeah.
So I've noticed that too. And I feel it in my body, this anxiety.
Totally. Yeah.
And
stomach and like.
Oh, yeah. You kind of feel that it doesn't feel good.
Your shoulders.
Everything's tense and your neck, and you don't sleep great. But I'm the same way too. but I kind of had to also like take a step back and just like look at it. It's like, you know what? I don't know. Even as psychics, a lot of people are gonna ask us, but can't you guys like find out what's gonna
just like,
happen?
no, I think that's gonna happen.
But I wish if it was like that. I mean, we can kind of get a sense of it, like which like direction, energy, which way to go. But it's not how we learn lessons and grow. So just putting that out there. You know? But I had to take a step back and just tell myself, like, you know what? You need to chill out.
Yeah.
I just think I have to, like, you just need to pause, just say hello to whatever's going on today, like right now, like in this present time, because the more I put my energy in, like in this future, right? Like, oh, what is going to happen? Like it's, you know, a lot of us have this fear of the uncertainty of the unknown. So that's also causes a lot of this feelings and emotions that we don't find it very pleasant. And I had to sit down with myself and just get honest. It's like, you know what? We don't have control over, you know, a lot of things outside of ourselves, but I can only control where I am right now. And because I can shift where my state is from, like, if I'm feeling anxious, I used to be in a space in the past where I would suppress it. That was my default mode, suppress. And then, of course, later it would just kind of bubble up and it comes up just like as you know, the gates of flood. But I think it's a space that I created for myself where I can just kind of sit with that anxiety. And it's unpleasant at first, but I just kind of allow myself just to kind of move through the emotions of that. Just kind of let it do its thing. And again, I say it's a little uncomfortable. There might be stuff that might come up, but I know it that after that passes, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. Then I'm back to myself. I'm like, okay, yes, I got this.
Yeah, because it's just your body, like, telling you that it feels unsafe in some way because of some thought that you might have thought of.
Yeah, and it is the brain's default is to protect you.
Yeah.
And for you to stay safe. So whatever it is that's kind of like outside of that is, again, this unknown, you don't know what's coming. Of course, the body, it is going to react. It's going to freak out. You're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And there's all this like alarm bells just start like ringing, like, you know, all over the place. But it's important just to find a space where you can just say hello to all of this that's going on. Just take a moment again to just pause and just stay still. And just, even if it's for a few minutes, just to kind of just acknowledge that. I think it's important because usually majority of us like get into this mode of like, I just want to like, push through, get over with. But I think it just kind of causes more anxiety. Yeah. And more like this unsettling feelings. So I think it's really important just to kind of be intentional with how you kind of move through this.
Yeah. You know? And if you're used to being the person who has it all together and like everything's great, like, and that's usually the state that I try to always achieve to be in, and I think a lot of people try to achieve to be in. At least, you know, if you are trying to become more grounded and more, you know, solidified in your space, I think it's hard when these types of things happen because then you feel like, oh, the work that I've done, like you just get kind of ungrounded. When I get ungrounded, like I go into a very like dramatic spiral of like, oh, like I'm such a failure, or like the self-invalidation kicks in, right? Of like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, like kind of go into past time information.
And the should energy.
And like, then that makes you feel even worse. And even like, you know, 5 times more anxious or 10 times more anxious. And then none of that's actually true anyway. So it helps to have people to talk to. Like, I'm very lucky that I have you to talk to about this. And I also have talked to my sister and my roommate about this. My sister is one of my other roommates, but being able to have like people you can talk things out with who aren't going to make you feel bad about yourself in any way or agree with the other party. Sometimes when I talk to, maybe one of my family members, they might agree like, oh, well, what did you do wrong? And then you're like, okay, they're not the person to talk to. You need to talk to someone who feels safe or will just be a neutral party involved and not think that you are part of the problem. And I think that's been helpful for me. And also, like, it's not really a problem either. Like, if you think about it, it's just a change. And it's like a change in like how you perceive that change is going to be very, very helpful for how you process that change. And I'm literally giving you advice directly to myself right now.
Well, I think that's wonderful when you can recognize that, right?
Yeah.
You're like, you start giving advice to others. You're like, wait, this applies to me.
This is exactly what I needed to hear. Yeah. So, it's been like definitely a few weeks of feeling very, very ungrounded and very turbulent. But then in retrospect, I'm like, this whole place is ungrounded. Like my workplace itself is ungrounded. Like the experience itself it's just it's almost like it's, when Aladdin goes in and he tries to find the lamp and then the sand treasure trove starts to implode on itself. That's kind of how I've been feeling of like, oh my God, I got to get that lamp and then we got to get the hell out of here. And not that I have to get a lamp, but just like feeling like I have to leave immediately.
You just don't want to stay in that uncomfortable situation.
No.
Because those situations, it takes you out of your comfort and
it doesn't provide safety. It doesn't. Yeah. And like for me, I need to feel psychologically safe.
And I think, all of us, and I think we crave that emotional, physical, mental safety.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I think it is also like our default, just getting to that space. But in the same time, what's interesting us, in this physical body is that as we go through our evolution, the only way we grow, it is through changes.
True.
And it is through challenging times. And a lot of us going to be, but why? That it sucks.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, totally.
I agree. It sucks, and for some people, we always talk about these growth periods. And for some people, might last just a day, could be years. For some people, they might never learn the lesson because growth periods, to me, it is about all learning lessons. Mm-hmm. And you might get it right away. It might dawn like 6 months later, like, oh, yes.
You'll have your aha moment.
Yes, the light switch just turned on. For some people, they might never learn. And that's okay, I think. And sometimes we might go through more than one of those growth periods. It might be several going on at the same time. And it's hard to stay grounded and stay especially in the more positive, having a positive outlook. But I think it's interesting to also notice that everything that we go through, we can always change our perspective and the narrative of the situation we're in. I was also, when I was first going through this transition, my first reaction was like, oh no,
dread.
Yeah. Like I have to, right? I have to, whether it be look for a job,
an obligation,
a chore, this chore obligation. I have to do this. But then I thought to myself, and I was like, I'm just gonna flip the script because I just don't want to follow this script when I'm like, ugh, it's so icky and just so heavy. I want to follow the script where it's like, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity for me to reassess.
Right. You have the opportunity to do this.
Yes.
You get to do this.
You get to reassess and can I get creative in this process and just start with this place of curiosity. Ooh, what do I want to explore right now?
Yeah, like, oh, this is a great opportunity for me to not have to experience this thing that's no longer serving me. So coming back to what no longer serves you, and then also discover, oh, what is going to serve me in a better way? What's going to be more energetically aligned? Or, just when things come together, I think that's going to be something that is going to be super helpful when you are going through that process of figuring out what serves you and what doesn't. So I think that's going to be the most helpful when you are going through that process.
Yeah, just know that you're not alone. I think us as humanity, I see, like I was kind of looking at the energy of this year. It's almost like we're all, and I think also after, like, as we went through the pandemic and now things are kind of have shifted a lot, is that almost we're going through that, what is called like the dark night of the soul, when it's kind of, which if you're not familiar with the term, it's just like it's a space where it's kind of like, it's this analogy of kind of like how the caterpillar goes into a cocoon. And then it takes time, to kind of finally turn into the butterfly. So it's kind of being the cocoon phase, where things gets, kind of really uncomfortable and dark. And you start like to question a lot of things, and you notice things that don't no longer serve you. What serves me? And you're in this place of all this uncertainty. You're not really sure how things are even going to pan out, because you're such we sometimes keep ourselves in the space where we don't see anything else better can come out of this.
Right.
Or because we're just so down on ourselves. And I've been there so many times. You feel like you're in a cave.
Deep in the pit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, there's no way out. I'm stuck.
Yep.
So it's just knowing that this will pass, this period will pass. But again, it's just finding, as you've mentioned, like a support system, but also finding a practice that also supports you mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, how to regulate when you feel triggered by the situation or other people. Yeah. And, I've been figuring out what works for me and what doesn't work for me, seeking comfort and healthy activities. I've actually been working out more. So, but then it's I don't want to be too crazy about that. Sorry to say crazy, but just too regimen about and because then I get very hard on myself when I don't do those things that are supposed to help me make me feel better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to find something that really you feel that it supports your journey, but you feel joy doing it.
Yes.
Then you kind of look forward to it. Whether it could be movement, it could be, having a quiet time either inside your house or out in nature. I mean, it could be just so many things, taking a class.
Yeah, reading, watching a new TV show.
Whatever it is that it just helps you just to kind of, go through this growth periods. And but just know it that, and I think I've mentioned, I love this phrase that says the only way out is through. And I know it just sucks. It's not fun going through these moments, but when you get to the other side, it's worth it.
Yeah, because you'll realize I'm never going to let someone treat me like that again. So that's what I'm currently
because you learned a lesson.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm never going to have to tolerate that type of behavior, or I'm never going to have to put my self-worth aside for the sake of earning $1.
Yeah, it is a place of rediscovery.
Yeah.
In many ways, you really look at it okay, it wasn't not serving me anymore. It was very unhealthy. And then from then on, just that's when change starts.
Yeah.
Because you start making changes that are more aligned with where you are now, And I think it's, again, when we are in the situation that's, it's really challenging, there is not only a lesson to learn, but knowing that there are some things that, especially when it comes to either other people or the whatever it is that you're in, accept things as it is. And I'm not saying tolerate abuse or toxic behavior, but accept that it is what it is. And then you decide whether you want to stay in that situation or not. So I think it's also a place of that acceptance.
Right.
And then decide, like, how do I want to move forward from the situation? Yeah, because it helps.
Yeah, because you can't go into analyzing it or else you're going to drive yourself crazy. And
Geez. Yeah, it makes the situation even worse.
Yeah, you're like, what did I do wrong? And like, just accept, like, it is what it is. And you can either, like Lili said, choose to stay or choose to leave. And for me, I'm choosing to leave. So
both of us.
Yeah.
Well,
choosing change.
Choosing healthy change.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably keep you guys updated as, with our future episodes. We'll definitely update you guys on our journey.
Yes.
And knowing that you're also not alone. We're also going through all of this together, energetically speaking. And we're here to support you. So, if you want to share your story, please reach out to us. You can send us an email, follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, DM us. We're here. Even if it's just to lend a listening ear or a comforting shoulder. But if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share with your friends, your community. Follow us. Social medias. I think I've already said that.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you taking your time and your energy being here with us. And we'll see you on our next episode.
Thank you so much from the Psychic Girls Next Door.